is Radio Moscow World Service. The State Emergency Committee has instructed all bodies of power and administration in the center and locally to see to it that the state of emergency is strictly observed. In the event of inability to do so, the powers of appropriate bodies of government and management are suspended, and their functions are delegated to the persons specially authorized by the committee. This is said in a statement that has just been published. According to the statement, the structures of power and management and paramilitary units acting against the USSR Constitution and laws are immediately disbanded, and their decisions are declared invalid. Activities by the parties, public organizations, and mass movements obstructing the normalization of the situation are suspended, and so is activity by the USSR Security Council, since its functions have been taken over by the State Emergency Committee. Citizens, institutions, and organizations have been obliged to surrender the illegally possessed arms. The decision underlines that it's prohibited to hold meetings, street processions, demonstrations, and strikes. If necessary, a curfew, patrol, search, and stricter border and custom regime may be introduced. Media are to be more controlled by a specially created body. The Cabinet is asked to carry out within a week an inventory of all available resources of food and prime necessity goods to report the nation what the country has and strictly control the safety and distribution of the reserves. Also within a week, the Cabinet is to make proposals on how to put in order, freeze, and reduce the prices of some goods, above all those for children, and also to raise wages, pensions, and allowances. The pay of the leaders on all levels must be put in order. Urgent measures are to be adopted to organize harvesting and keep the crops to prevent a threat of famine in the country. The bodies of power and administration in the center and locally must pay prime attention to the population's social needs.
This is Radio Moscow World Service. At 10 hours UTC, we'll continue broadcasting in the 13, 16, 19, 25, 31, and 41 meter band short waves. That's Radio Moscow World Service in the 13, 16, 19, 25, 31, and 41 meter band short waves. Please stand by for the news and other features.
This is Radio Moscow World Service. The State Emergency Committee has instructed all bodies of power and administration in the center and locally to see to it that the state of emergency is strictly observed. In the event of inability to do so, the powers of appropriate bodies of government and management are suspended, and their functions are delegated to the persons specially authorized by the committee. This is said in a statement that has just been published. According to the statement, the structures of power and management and paramilitary units acting against the USSR Constitution and laws are immediately disbanded, and their decisions are declared invalid. Activities by the parties, public organizations, and mass movements obstructing the normalization of the situation are suspended, and so is activity by the USSR Security Council, since its functions have been taken over by the State Emergency Committee. Citizens, institutions, and organizations have been obliged to surrender the illegally possessed arms. The decision underlines that it's prohibited to hold meetings, street processions, demonstrations, and strikes. If necessary, a curfew, patrol, search, and stricter border and custom regime may be introduced. Media are to be more controlled by a specially created body. The Cabinet is asked to carry out within a week an inventory of all available resources of food and prime necessity goods to report the nation what the country has and strictly control the safety and distribution of the reserves. Also within a week, the Cabinet is to make proposals on how to put in order, freeze, and reduce the prices of some goods, above all those for children, and also to raise wages, pensions, and allowances. The pay of the leaders on all levels must be put in order. Urgent measures are to be adopted to organize harvesting and keep the crops to prevent a threat of famine in the country. The bodies of power and administration in the center and locally must pay prime attention to the population's social needs. A session of the Yugoslav Commission overseeing compliance with the ceasefire in Croatia is to be held today. There were renewed armed clashes in Croatia on Sunday. The main seat of tension is the town of Okučani, where the last few days have seen fierce clashes between the Croatian police and the local Serbs opposed to the secession of the republic. The army actions have been strongly criticized by the chairman of Yugoslavia's Presidium, Stipe Mesic of Croatia. Speaking in Zagreb, he has threatened to resign if the ceasefire in Croatia is sham. King Hussein of Jordan is going to Syria today for consultations with President Hafez Assad on the possibility of holding a peace conference on the Middle East in October. Speaking before the departure, he noted that all Arab countries should coordinate their position on the issue. Earlier, the Jordanian Foreign Minister Abdallah al-Nussar has refuted a report that his country will send a delegation to such a conference regardless of whether the PLO takes part or not. 4 Arabs have died on the Israeli-held West Bank of the Jordan and Gaza Strip overnight. According to evidence by Palestinians, 2 of the 4 were shot dead by Israeli soldiers from a passing car. Significantly, there was no confrontation at all between Israelis and Palestinians at the moment. Local observers note that it was the bloodiest day for the Palestinians in the course of the Palestinian uprising that has been continuing for 3.5 years already. Cambodia has welcomed the UN Secretary General's Paris de Cuéllar's decision to send a special mission to that country. As Radio Phnom Penh points out, this is extremely important for creating an atmosphere of mutual trust between the Cambodian sides. The mission will prepare recommendations on creating a mechanism to monitor a ceasefire and an end to foreign military aid to Cambodia. Pope John Paul II, visiting Hungary, has met the Jewish community in Budapest. He urged the Jews and Christians for dialogue and cooperation in the campaign for human rights. The Pope suggested setting up joint regional committees to inspire the spirit of opposition to anti-Semitism among people. Thousands of people have demonstrated against terrorism in Spain over the last 24 hours. Demonstrators called on the Basque separatist organization ETA to stop its activity and disband itself. Meanwhile, groups of extremists have organized in several cities actions in protest against the killing of 3 ETA members. Barricades have been put up on the streets. At least 17 people have been injured in clashes with police. The South African government has set aside $76 million to combat poverty in the country. This has been disclosed by the South African Finance Minister Bernard du Plessis. He noted that at present it was exceedingly important to pay attention to drafting such programs. He revealed that programs to help the children, the sick, and the disabled people were being worked out. At the quarterfinals of the World Chess Tournament in Brussels, the Soviet Grandmaster Boris Gelfand has prevailed over Nigel Short of Britain in the 6th round of the competitions. The ex-world champion Anatoly Karpov and the Indian player Vishwanathan Anand have postponed their game for the 2nd time. Artur Yusupov and Vasily Ivanchuk, both of the USSR, have drawn their game. The tournament's winner will play against the world champion Garry Kasparov in a world title match in 1993. You're listening to Radio Moscow.
Radio Moscow World Service. The USSR Vice President Gennady Yanayev has taken over presidential powers because of Mikhail Gorbachev's inability to act as president for health reasons. The Soviet leadership has released a statement saying that a state of emergency has been introduced in some parts of the USSR for 6 months. The USSR Constitution and laws take unconditional precedence across this country's territory. A state of emergency committee has been formed to govern the country and effectively implement the state of emergency. Its decisions are binding for all bodies of power and administration and for citizens all over this country. The committee has issued an address to the Soviet people. The message says that the policy of reforms started on Mikhail Gorbachev's initiative and planned as a means to ensure the dynamic development of the country and democratized life and society has reached a deadlock for a number of reasons. The initial enthusiasm and hopes have changed for the absence of faith, apathy, and despair. Power at all levels has lost popular trust. Political intriguing has forced concern about the destiny of the homeland and citizens out of public life. The vicious mockery of all institutions of state is being cultivated. The country has in fact become ungovernable. Having used the granted freedoms and trampling the sprouts of democracy underfoot, extremist forces have emerged and have taken the course toward liquidating the Soviet Union, doing away with the state and seizing power at any price. The results of the nationwide referendum on the homeland's unity have been quashed. The cynical speculation on national feelings is only a smokescreen to pursue ambitions. Political adventurists are not worried either about the present-day troubles of their nations or their future. It's for the people to decide what kind of social system there should be. However, there are attempts to deprive them of this right, the statement says. Instead of caring about the safety and well-being of each individual and society as a whole, individuals who have come to power have quite often been using it in the interests alien to the people as an unscrupulous self-assertion means. Each citizen feels growing uncertainty for tomorrow and deep concern over the future of their children. The power crisis has catastrophically affected the economy. The chaotic and spontaneous slide down to a market has given rise to an outbreak of regional, departmental, collective, and individual egoism. The war of laws and the fomenting of centrifugal trends have led to the destruction of the single national economy mechanism that has taken decades to create. As a result, the living standards of the overwhelming majority of Soviet people have sharply fallen. Improper second-hand dealing and black marketeering have been flourishing. For years, there have been incantations about adherence to the interests of an individual, concern about his rights, and social guarantee, the Soviet leadership's statement says. But in fact, people have been humiliated. Their real rights and opportunities have been infringed upon, and they have been driven to despair. It's obvious that all the democratic institutions created through the expression of the people's will are losing their prestige and effectiveness. Onslaught on the rights of people is underway. The rights to work, education, the health service, housing, and rest are in jeopardy. Even the elementary individual safety of people has been more and more under threat. Crime has been quickly growing. It has been getting more organized and politicized. The country is plunging into an abyss of violence and lawlessness. The growing destabilization of the political and economic situation in the Soviet Union is undermining our positions in the world. In some places, there have been revanchist calls and demands for the revision of our borders. Some speculate about the possibility of partitioning the Soviet Union and putting some of its facilities and areas under international trusteeship. This is a sad reality. The pride and honor of the Soviet citizen must be restored to the full. The State of Emergency Committee in the USSR assumes the responsibility for the future of the country and is determined to take the most serious action to put an early end to the crisis in the state and society. We promise to arrange a nationwide discussion of the new Treaty of the Union. We are going to immediately restore law and order, put an end to bloodshed, declare an uncompromising war on the criminal world, and to eradicate the disgraceful phenomena discrediting and humiliating the Soviet citizens. We stand for genuinely democratic processes and a consistent policy of reforms leading to the revival of our country, its economic and social prosperity, which would let it take a worthy place in the world community of nations. As we develop a mixed economy, we'll support private enterprise and give it the necessary opportunities for expanding production and the services. The statement stresses the Soviet Union is a peace-loving nation that will unswervingly observe its international commitments. It demands nothing from anyone. It wants to live in peace and friendship with everyone. But it insists no one will be allowed to threaten its sovereignty, independence, and territorial integrity. Any attempts to use the language of diktat in relations with this country, no matter who makes them, will be checked. The State of Emergency Committee is calling on all Soviet citizens to render all-round support to its efforts to lead this country out of the crisis. The head of the country, Gennady Yanayev, has addressed the heads of other states and governments and the United Nations Secretary General. He has informed them that a 6-month state of emergency was imposed in accordance with the national constitution and